Hello everyone and welcome back to our Docker tutorial series. Today we are diving into Docker networks. Docker network is a powerful tool for facilitating communication between containers. So let's jump right in. Let's grasp the concept of Docker network. Essentially, Docker network enables seamless communication between containers. Imagine a scenario where multiple applications are running on the same host. We may want to prevent certain applications from communicating with each other. This is where Docker network comes into play. So basically, by defining specific networks for each container, we can isolate their communication. Now let's explore some essential Docker network commands before we dive into the hands-on. Let's start with the very basic command to list down all the Docker networks that we have currently on the system. So for that, it's Docker network ps. So my bad, it's not ps, it's ls. So if you are using a wrong command, it gives a kind of guide which will give you all the commands that we can run with the network command. So it's an ls to list the network instead of ps. So let's change that to ls. Okay, so got permission defined because we already know from the previous videos we need to be a root user or our username should be a part of Docker group. So let's get into the root user and then run the ps command again, sorry, ls command. And we can see there are three networks that it defined. So basically the bridge network, let's talk about the bridge network first. Basically, bridge network is a default network. Whenever we are installing a Docker, it will install a bridge network. So whenever we are creating a new containers, it will be assigned to a bridging network, which is the first one. Now let's talk about the another command. If we want to create our own network for our specific containers. So let's dive into that one. So for creating a new Docker network, the command is Docker network create and the name of the network. So I will give the name as Docker network Agent network 1. And let's see what's the error over here. Okay, so there is a typo. Instead of Docker, I have written Docket. So let me correct that. Okay, so this ID means that the network has been created. Let's check the networks again. And we can see that our network has been created, which is Arjun-network 1. So now suppose if there are multiple networks and you are not aware about a specific network, like basically what it does or what's the IP address on that, we can get all the details about that network with the command docker inspect and with the name of the network, which is Arjun-network 1. So we can see it has given all the information about this network name, what was the ID that was created, when it was created, which driver it's using, and many other options. Okay, these are the basic commands that we use with the Docker network. Okay, so moving further, now let's illustrate how two containers communicate with each other using a practical example. Consider a scenario where our application consists of multiple components. For example, let's take an example of the database component and the user interface component. For this demonstration purposes, I will be using MongoDB as our database and Mongo Express for the UI from where we will access the database. The images for both MongoDB and Mongo Express are present on Docker Hub, and we can pull those images and work on that. So let's try that out. Firstly, let me create image or container for Mongo. Okay, so the command for that will be, okay, so let me paste the command. So this is the command to run the container for our Mongo database. Let's check all the options that we have in this command. So -d represents the detach mode, which represents the container that will run in background. -p is port. So we have specified host container as 27017 and same as container host. So this port number is a default port number for Mongo database. Net represents a network in which we want our container to run. So I have created a new network, again network 3, and uh, want this network to be specified for this container. And other two options are environment variable, where I'm passing a username and password for my database. And the name specifies the name of the container. It can be anything, so I have specified Mongo database. And at last, we need to specify the image name, which is Mongo. Last thing that I want to tell you about this command is the backslashes. It lets us to write the commands in another line. So let's execute it. Okay, so we see that it has been created. So we have our MongoDB up and running as a container. Let's work on Mongo Express so that we can access Mongo database from the UI. Okay, so for Mongo Express, the command is this. So for Mongo Express, 8081 is the default port. So I have specified host port and the container port as 8081. Network is same, Agent Network 3. And there are a couple of environment variables in this command as well. So we are with the first environment variable, we are enabling the admin, which is equal to true. Then passing username and password, which should be same as the database admin and pass. And the fourth environment variable, which is the very important variable to make the connection between the two containers running on the same network, which is MongoDB server. So over here, it is written as Mongo server, but it should specify the name of the Mongo database container, which should be Mongo database. So let me correct that. Okay, so let me paste the command again. So this is the one. I have specified the name of the container to which it wants to connect, which is our Mongo database. So let's run this now. So we see there is a conflict. So actually the Mongo Express is already present in my system. So let me change the name of this container to Mongo underscore Express. So let's run that. And we see that container has been created now. So let me clear the output and let's check our containers. Docker ps. And we see that Mongo Express is running and Mongo is as well running. So let's check the logs first for the Mongo Express to see if it's able to connect to database or not. So for checking the logs, we can use the Docker command with Docker logs and the name of the image, Mongo Express image. the name of the image is Mongo Express. Let me see that. Okay, so we are seeing that database connected, admin database connected, unable to list database. That's not a problem. We just wanted to see if the database is up and running and connected. And let's bring our browser up and let's see if we are able to access the database. Okay, so let me copy the public IP address of the machine, and it's running on port 8081. So now we are able to see the predefined databases that we have already. So we can view it, can go back, we can create our own database over here. So database one, create database, it will come here. We can delete it directly from here. This one and delete. So this is the way how we make connection to the database from the UI application. So if you encounter any issues, you can obviously go into the logs and check the logs accordingly. So over here we can see we are getting all the get requests, post requests. Yeah, so that's all for this video. So this is the way how we connect two containers running on the same network. Thanks for watching this video.